For the last 80 years, the Senate has not confirmed any nominee nominated during an election year, and we should not do so this time either. This nomination could dramatically alter the balance of power on the U.S. Supreme Court, and we have an election going on right now.
All right, that was Senator Ted Cruz making it clear why he was blocking President Obama's Supreme Court nominee, excuse me, more than 8 months before the last election. But with just 36 days to go until the next election, he's kind of pulled a 180 and wants to vote on you-know-who's nominee now. And here to tell us why is the author of a book with a very timely title, One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History, Senator Ted Cruz. Morning, Senator. Sonny, you got the first one.
Sure. Senator Cruz, thank you so much for joining us. But before we get to Trump's Supreme Court nominee, we've been talking this morning about the New York Times report, which claims President Trump paid just $750 in federal income taxes in both 2016 and 2017 when he was in office, and none actually at all in 10 out of the 15 years prior. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know how accurate the story is. The New York Times didn't release any of the underlying documents. Apparently, somebody illegally gave them a copy of something, some tax return documents. But
if it's accurate,
I don't know. But the point is, I don't know if it's accurate or not. I don't think it's an issue that frankly impacts a whole lot of Americans. As I talk to people in Texas, the number one issue everyone is worried about is jobs. They want to reopen small businesses. They want to go back to work. I talk to moms and parents who are worried about education, who are worried about the future, who want to see our economy come back, who want us to stay safe, who want to rebuild our military. And so, you know, a stolen or secretly leaked copy of the president's tax returns, I get the New York Times wants to drive this as an attack on Donald Trump. But I don't see a lot of people in Texas who this is front and center for them.
Do you think people should pay their fair share in taxes?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just asking you, do you think people should pay their fair?
Oh, look, of course people should pay their fair share in taxes. I assumed that the president had accountants and followed the law. It's actually one of the reasons why I've long been an advocate of a flat tax, a simple flat tax, 10% for everyone. You know, it's often the case that the super wealthy end up paying a lot less because there's all sorts of legal ways in their taxes to pay substantially less. I think a flat tax, I think we should abolish the IRS and have everyone send in. I laid out a very simple flat tax plan that every family would pay 10%. It doesn't matter if it's income or capital gains or everything. And it reduces the power of Washington. So if this story now has caused the New York Times to come out in favor of a flat tax, I think that's great.
Well, so Senator, I'm assuming that you pay your taxes. You just said you did. So bravo to that. I pay mine, you pay yours. And Trump says the story is fake news, and you're even questioning its validity right now. So here's my question. Why not just release his tax returns and prove it? Seems like a very easy solution. Let's see the tax returns. Every other president has shown them.
This was a fight back and forth in 2016. I'm sure Joe Biden will make that point. As I said, I don't see people at home this being the number one issue. It's not complicated that the New York Times and the media hates the president. They want to distract from, frankly, I think the Supreme Court vacancy we have in front of us is a much more important issue because it impacts. The people I hear from care about our constitutional rights. They care about free speech. They care about religious liberty. And I think we ought to be focusing on issues that actually impact people's lives, not just the relentless attacks on the president, which seems to be about the only thing the media wants to cover.
Well, let's get back to the Supreme Court, because it is the Republicans are now working to fast-track Judge Amy Coney Barrett, her appointment. And we heard what you said in 2016 about not wanting a new Supreme Court justice. That was 8 months out from the election. This one is a month out. So I know what changed your I feel like I know what changed your mind. But why did you change? Or do you still feel the same way?
Well, they're very different circumstances. And if you actually look to history, the situation of a Supreme Court vacancy during a presidential election year is not new. It's happened 29 times in our country's history. Presidents have made nominations all 29 times. And if you look to the precedent of what's happened, there's a clear pattern. 19 of those times, the president and the Senate have been of the same party. And the Senate has confirmed 17 of those 19. That's what happens when they're both of the same party. On the other hand, 10 of the times the president and the Senate have been of different parties. And when that's happened, the Senate has confirmed only 2 of them. In 2016, President Obama and the Senate were of different parties, and that's one of the instances. And there's a reason for that, which is the Constitution sets up checks and balances between the president and the Senate, and the American people. The 2 parties have a very different view on what kind of judge or justice should be appointed. And you know, as you mentioned, I've got a new book, One Vote Away, and it's all about the kinds of justices that should be appointed and why. It really gets into the inside story of the biggest cases at the courts. What's going on with the justices? You know, before I was in the Senate, I was a Supreme Court litigator. That was my profession. I argued cases in front of the Supreme Court. And Donald Trump promised to nominate principled constitutionalists in the mold of Scalia and Thomas. Hillary Clinton promised to nominate liberal judicial activists. And the American people made a choice there.
I'm sorry. Sir, hold on. I just want to point out that one of those people that was, you know, liberal was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I just wanted to point that out. Now, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we have more questions for you, Senator Ted Cruz. We'll be right back. We are back with Senator Ted Cruz. Sarah.
Hi, Senator Cruz. You were speaking earlier about what voters are concerning themselves with, their everyday needs. And I would ask if the Supreme Court nomination is the most pressing issue for Americans right now, when we're in the middle of a pandemic with over 200 lives lost. The primary duty of government is to protect the American people. Shouldn't all of your focus, as well as everyone in D.C., go towards saving lives right now?
Well, listen, I think we should continue doing everything reasonably possible to protect people and to fight this pandemic. We collectively as a country have taken extraordinary steps to fight the coronavirus pandemic. I think we also need a real sense of urgency about getting people back to work. 51 million Americans have lost their jobs in the last 6 months. It's the biggest economic disaster since the Great Depression. And I got to tell you, in the Senate right now, it's frustrating because Senate Democrats and House Democrats are refusing to cut a deal, refusing to do anything. And I think our priority should be reopen the economy, let small businesses reopen, do it safely, listen to sound science. We can socially distance, we can make reasonable steps. But people are hurting right now. I introduced legislation called the Recovery Act that would reduce taxes, reduce regulations on the millions of small businesses that are right now opening their doors, but they're right on the edge between surviving and going under. We ought to be focused on that. Well, unfortunately, congressional Democrats... Go ahead.
Can I question you about that then? Because, you know, in terms of businesses being closed and people losing their jobs, they're also at risk of losing their health care, because the Supreme Court is set to hear the latest constitutional challenge to the Affordable Care Act just days after the election. And if this gets overturned, more than 20 million Americans stand to lose their health care coverage in the middle of a pandemic. Republicans have had, I believe, 10 years to come up with a viable replacement, yet still don't have one. So I want you on the record here. I mean, can you guarantee that everyone, regardless of pre-existing conditions, will have immediate access to affordable and adequate health care coverage if the Affordable Care Act gets overturned? And I'm not talking about, you know, President Trump's executive order or anything like that. Is there a replacement?
Well, there are a number of proposals for replacements that I've put forward, that others have put forward. But let me start where you started, which is on pre-existing conditions, because this is the number one talking point Democrats are using this election year. And let me just be clear. Everyone agrees people with pre-existing conditions should be protected. 100 senators, all 100 senators, every Republican agrees we should protect pre-existing conditions. If you look at Obamacare, I hear from Texans all the time who point out that Obamacare caused health insurance premiums to skyrocket. And what Texans say to me, I hear from moms all the time who say, I can't afford health insurance anymore. And so what I think we should do in terms of a replacement plan, and I've laid this out in great detail, is we ought to have more choice, more competition, more options. Your health care ought to be personal and portable. It should go with you from job to job. So even if you get fired, you keep your health insurance. People with pre-existing conditions should be protected, but we need to be lowering premiums. And I think there is widespread agreement on that, despite the fear-mongering that a lot of Democrats are doing on it right now.
Okay. But is there a replacement plan?
Cruz, no, there's not. Clearly, there's not. He just said that. We'll be back with Ted Cruz. Hey, we're back with Senator Ted Cruz. Joy.
So, Senator, just a few minutes ago, you said, and correctly, the country is suffering. There are many people out of work, but you would like to open safely, follow the science, protect small business, and all of that. But Republican Florida Governor DeSantis, for example, recently lifted all coronavirus restrictions on businesses, allowing bars and restaurants to open at full capacity without a mask mandate. He said they won't be closing anything going forward. Now, what's your response to Governor DeSantis's policy, one, and would you do the same thing in Texas if you could?
So, yes, we should reopen, and I actually think if you look at Florida, if you look at Texas, the death rates have been much, much lower there than, for example, states like New York, New Jersey, states with Democratic governors where the death rates have been enormously through the roof. New York in particular has led the country in death rate, and I think it had a lot to do with the Democratic governor there, Governor Cuomo, sending people who had COVID into nursing homes. Well, the death rate is 3 times as high as the death rate in Texas or Florida. I'm sorry?
I'm talking about Florida right now, not New York. New York got hit very early, and a lot of people were coming in without any kind of sanctions on it.
But the government policy was different, and the policy made a difference. The government policy was different, and the policy made a difference. The policy of the governors of New York and New Jersey of sending people who were COVID positive into nursing homes was catastrophic, and it resulted in a horrific death rate. No, I'm saying we should actually listen to sound science and protect people and keep them safe.
Let me jump in here. It's a slight pivot here.
I'd like to jump in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Whoopi.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say I do want to point out that had the man who is running the country right now given us this information in January when he had it, when we could have maybe done something a little differently, it might have worked differently. I just wanted to point that out. It's not about whose people died more. People died and they didn't have to. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I just wanted to really quick ask Senator Cruz, just a day after the late Justice Ginsburg laid in state at the Capitol, Senate Republicans started selling notorious ACB T-shirts. Do you think that was in poor taste, considering that Justice Ginsburg had a career to build up that status, that the faces aren't just interchangeable?
Well, listen, I knew Justice Ginsburg. I argued in front of Justice Ginsburg in the court 9 times. She was brilliant. She was a legendary Supreme Court advocate, and she, by any measure, is one of the most consequential justices in history. You know what I would encourage you, I recognize the host of this show, y'all's politics are different than mine. And I think it's actually good we're having a conversation. Too often, left and right don't talk to each other, and we just kind of yell at each other. And one thing I would suggest, if you want to understand why so many millions of Americans care passionately about the Supreme Court and about justices who will protect free speech and religious liberty in the Second Amendment, I would encourage you actually to read the book I just came out with, One Vote Away. Even if you're not going to agree with it, I would just encourage it because I think it will help.
We want to
help folks understand
I know you're going to think
why
I'm doing
religious
this
liberty
on purpose,
is
but
so
I'm
important.
not.
Free speech
We
is
have
so
to say
important.
thanks to Senator Ted Cruz. His new book, One Vote Away, A Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History, is out tomorrow, and we'll be right back.